Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. You know, every second Tuesday, every second Friday, every third Monday, we get to chat with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, which means we get to do a lot of travel and we get to talk about food and wine. We like that. So learn more about the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association at IFWTWA.org. We say IFWTWA. It's a lot easier. And today we're going up to New York State to Cayuga. Now, am I saying this correct? We've got Noah Howard joining us. Now, so Cayuga County is up in the Finger Lakes region, and you can check it out. Go to tourcayuga.com. The links are all in the episode notes. Did I say this right, Noah?
Lisa, I want to tell you, of all the times I've heard it pronounced, you said it excellently. That's exactly how we say it. Sometimes people lead into the K a little bit, like Cayuga, but it's Cayuga. You said it absolutely correctly. Yep.
So where does the name come from? Is
The
it
name
more
comes
Native
from-
American?
Yes, it is. There is something called the Iroquois Confederation. The Iroquois occupy almost all of New York State, from Buffalo all the way over to the eastern side, Albany. And there was 5 Cayuga nations, and they were confederated as allies with each other. And I remember in 8th grade history class, I learned a great acronym to remind you of all of them. And that is the word SCOOM, SCOO, and it's Seneca, Cayuga, Oneida, Onondaga, Mohawk, from west to east. Yeah.
So one of the things I think is so exciting about your region, beyond food and wine and sweet treats and waterfalls and all that beauty, right, is that you are like a hub on the Underground Railroad Trail, also home to Harriet Tubman. I mean, she spent so much time in your area, right? Being very active. And I think a lot of people must be coming up to your area just to connect with that history.
That's true. We like to call this town here, which is in the center of Cayuga County, Harriet Tubman's chosen hometown, because she had a couple of hometowns in her life, but this is the only one she chose to be in. And she moved here. She became friends with the Seward family, famous for William H. Seward, which was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State. He was also the governor of New York. He was the man who orchestrated the purchase of Alaska.
Yeah, that's right. Seward, Alaska.
Yes. He has a few different stories connected to him, but one of our favorites is the relationship him and his wife, Frances Seward, had with Harriet Tubman. After Harriet Tubman did her work on the Underground Railroad, she was a nationally known person. And the Sewards heard that she had moved to Canada and was living in Canada after her work. And they said, well, in her time, she was known as a hero. And they said, we can't have an American hero not living here in America. So they said, Harriet, we have a parcel of land right here in Cayuga County. Would you please come and live here? We'll give you the land. She agreed to everything except for the giving part. She insisted on buying it. And yes, her and her husband moved here and they built a home that you can visit today.
That's so exciting. And I think a lot of people think of her of the Underground Railroad, but she was also a spy, during the war too. So she was just amazing.
Yeah. She was the first woman to ever lead a military operation for the United States Army. That was the Combahee River raids in South Carolina. There was recently an author in town. She came to speak at an event called Pilgrimage with a Purpose that is about Harriet Tubman. And people come from all over the country in the middle of the month of May to Auburn to make a pilgrimage to celebrate Harriet Tubman. And this great author, her name is Dr. Etta Fields Black, got on the plane from Texas, and she was an author. And when she landed here in New York, she was a Pulitzer Prize winning author. It happened during her travel, and she brought a whole box of books to sign. One of the books was Combahee, and it was about Harriet Tubman's raid on the Combahee River in South Carolina. And she had to have her publisher send more and more boxes because people kept showing up. They wanted to meet this new Pulitzer Prize winning author. And it was a great weekend.
It's exciting. I mean, we got to think about this, just this women's history. And I feel like your area should be a national heritage area. I'm just saying.
We do have many nationally recognized heritage sites. Now, you mentioned you'd been to Seneca. That is our
Hmm.
very close neighbor just to the west. You were really close, and that is known for the women's suffrage movement.
Yes.
So this really is an equal rights district right here in the Finger Lakes.
And then you can have a glass of wine, learn all the history. So, like,
Absolutely.
you're talking about going to school, right? So you're learning all about the Iroquois, right? And,
Yeah.
the indigenous people. And,
Yeah.
you even think about New York State and New York City itself, the history of the Native Americans, the indigenous people of New York City. And I've done some interviews on that. In fact, we're doing a whole publication dedicated to New York State. As we get into America 250, the 250th anniversary
Yeah.
of this country, don't you feel like, wow, where you are is pretty an epic place to be celebrating,
Yeah, I
too?
see it as historically a sort of cradle where so many new ideas were born and raised into life. And between the women's suffrage movement and the abolition movement, it's all about freedom here in the Finger Lakes, and it still resonates today.
That's awesome. And so going to school, you had to be really like, you will learn your history, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those, yeah, and the history we mentioned the Iroquois people earlier in this
Mhm.
podcast, they were a major part of New York State history. They were allies with the Americans in the Revolution, and they
Yeah.
contributed quite a bit. They have a matriarchal society. Their whole system is run by tribal mothers, and that a lot of
Wow.
these ideas bled together into the ideas of freedom in the founding era.
So they rubbed off their belief system and way of life rubbed off probably on the women, which is interesting. The women's freedom movement and voting rights and all of that really, the abolitionists were doubling up from what I've seen in history. It seems like your area is really. So did you just put yourself on another podcast with us, another podcast channel, our Women Making History show now? I think you have to be part of that.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
See, I think you did. I think you did. This one's going on there too because, Harriet Tubman, I mean, we bow down. Like I almost want to call her like the mother of the country in a way. Just the beauty of what she did and the fearlessness, you know?
I love her. She is my favorite American hero. And it might sound like a small thing, but one of the favorite things I've ever heard about Harriet is back when she was living here, people would often say, don't give Harriet anything because she'll just give it away. She was so generous. She worked her entire life helping others on her property that she purchased from the Sewards. She had basically one of the nation's first retirement homes. She had a building called the Home for the Aged, where she
No
took
way.
care of old people in their retirement and older age. She was just so inspiring in so many ways.
I wanted to ask this because I've always been fascinated. I've never got the answer to this. Quilts play a role in the Underground Railroad. And then some people say, no, there's no real evidence. Have you seen anything in your area through the museums and the heritage sites, anything about quilts playing a role in that at all?
I haven't heard that directly, but I gotta say, it's kind of a weird synergy. You mentioned that be for two reasons. We have a wonderful museum here called Open Door, which was a recently restored museum space where a important suffragist and early education advocate named Emily Howland lived. And Emily Howland is famous for striving and breaking the law and educating recently freed people, formerly enslaved people. There were laws that you could not teach them. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, I know, but she was someone who educated freedom seekers after their journey in the Underground Railroad when they got to the Finger Lakes area. At Open Door, they have a beautiful quilt of her, and it is a suffragist and abolition museum, and there's a beautiful quilt of her. Another interesting quilt fact is right here in Auburn, New York, we have one of the world's premier textile museums called the Schweinfurth Museum, and they exhibit purely textile and fiber art all year. And their most important show every year and exhibit, which runs for several weeks, is called Quilts equals art equals quilts. And it's an exhibit of quilts as art pieces. And it is my favorite art installation I have seen in years and years. Yeah, I really implore people to look up the Schweinfurth Museum in Auburn, New York. It's a wonderful place to stop if you ever make a visit.
Want to make a visit now. I mean, this all this history is so
Yeah,
exciting, and I think for families, it looks like your area is a good destination for families. And when kids
absolutely.
get to go to these historic sites, it just history comes alive versus sitting in a classroom and here's your textbook. I'm not anti-school or textbooks, but I say this all the time. My love for history came from travel, as a kid, and I
Yeah.
read historical novels. I was into history, but when I got into like the school situation of it all, I sucked. And as soon as I
Yeah.
started traveling and going to the sites that they were talking about, then like I was on the road for 2 years as a young teen and went to all the historic sites when we lived in South Africa. And I remember
Wow.
going to Ishlawanda Rock where Shaka Zulu and all the stuff went down with the Boer Wars and oh man, it's like a whole history thing there. But I went back to school and I was homeschooling or I was a road scholar that
There
way.
you go.
You
ROAD. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so we get back and it's never left us, obviously. But go back to school and where I was actually almost failing, which is insane because I love history. I like graduated top honors like at like higher education level of history. And that is because of travel. And so when I was looking at, your site and we've not been there yet, everyone tour Cayuga.com. I was like, this is such a cool place for families. The Sweets Treats Trail, I mean, that's for all of us, right? That enjoy sweet treats. But
Absolutely.
I think like for the kids to go to Harriet Tubman's house, don't you think that's going to inspire them to do good things in life? Like, and understand that story.
Definitely. And like you said, your ability to excel learning these subjects and this history by literally, not even a metaphor, just literally walking in the footsteps of these historical figures in these historical places. I mean, experiential learning is, I feel like it's a shortcut to memory and the brain, and that experience of being there, taking in the sights and being in the exact same location as these historical stories. There's really is no faster way to learn them, absorb them, and understand them.
So you can balance it off too, because you got a lot of good outdoor stuff for people to do. Hiking.
Yeah. When you said kids, it really is. The entire county is a playground for children. I grew up here, and my parents took me. First of all, I want to say Cayuga County is a narrow, tall in the north south direction and narrow in the
Okay.
east west direction. The reason I say that is because there are distinct regions in the county as you kind of stratify from south to north or north to south. We have three Finger Lakes in this county, which is of all the Finger Lakes counties, some have one, some have two bordering, but we have three. But then additionally, we have one of the Great Lakes here. The northern end of Cayuga County is the shores of Lake Ontario. When I was young, my parents would take us up to this state park called Fairhavens Beach State Park, and it is a golden sand beach on the shores of the freshwater lake of Lake Ontario. And we would go there every summer. There's beautiful dunes, and the water is just fresh and clean. And the first time I ever actually went to the ocean as a young person, I got to be honest, I was disappointed because I was comparing it to this beautiful beach in Fairhaven. And if you didn't taste the water on your tongue, you wouldn't be able to tell you weren't at the ocean. The Great Lakes are so large that when you look out into the water, you can't see the other side, just like the ocean. So, in many respects, it is a real like Atlantic coastline experience, but on a Great Lake.
Been in that kind of position. In fact, our show on Friday is all about the Great Lakes. And
Oh,
I just recorded that. It was a travel writer, Judy Cohen, from also IFWTWA. She's on the board of IFWTWA. And
yeah.
she did a cruise on through the five Great Lakes. And she's from Toronto. So this was part of her backyard. And I think we often forget that the Great Lakes are connected to Canada, the War of 1812 and all of
Yeah.
that, right? So then you forget how far it stretches over to New York because we think Great Lakes Midwest, right?
Yeah, there's that
And
association, Michigan,
yeah, and
Chicago, right? Yeah,
I was telling Judy on the show that, we went to Lake Erie by way of Erie, Pennsylvania.
yeah,
And the history and it really connects with New York. And we were actually doing a wine trail out that way. But the beach was the same thing. We went into Lake Erie, we went on a boat, and I forgot we were in a lake because there were seagulls and it kind of had a salty atmosphere because there were
yeah.
marshes and And I'm like, what? You know, there's a lighthouse, and you don't think of lighthouses at a lake as much either. And so it's just so all the shipwreck history. I mean, the Great Lakes are
Yes.
fascinating to me. But yeah, and then I remember we went to a winery, and then the winemaker took us out into where I think it's Welch's Grapes actually grow their grapes, and then these are
That's
the
yeah.
wine. And then he's like, look over there, that's New York. And I'm like, really? Like, and I was like, wait, can we just drive there? No, you just had wine. Sit down and have a sandwich. But it just is that connection that I really believe we kind of forget where our geography is. And also New York State is why we're doing a special publication on it. People think New York State immediately think New York City. It's like Louisiana's only New Orleans. And no
Yeah.
offense to these big cities. And Minnesota, there's more than Minneapolis and St.
Yeah.
Paul.
New York has the fortune or unfortune of sharing the name, so when people say New York, you really have to specify. You talk about New York City or New York State. New York City being, I feel probably the most famous city in the whole world, not just the country. We kind of live for better. I think for better. Some might think for worse in the shadow of the skyscrapers of New York City, and for that reason, you can really say that many places in upstate New York truly are hidden gems. But it's starting to be discovered. We recently had a Finger Lakes Region Travel Council meeting in the middle of the summer where one of the speakers was talking about just visitorship. Visitation to the Finger Lakes in the past 10 years, it's gone up 60%. So people are starting to discover the beauty and the magic of the Finger Lakes.
Is it mostly the wine that helped drive that, do you
I
think, or
feel
the
it's
outdoors?
I feel it's the lakes themselves. The wine and people knowing that it is a wine area, or designated what's called an appellation, a wine region really helps because it gives them the visual, oh, I'm going to be seeing some beautiful sights and being some beautiful countryside. But it's the lakes themselves. I got to say, the photography and video that people see of our area helps quite a bit because it's absolutely beautiful. There
Mm,
really isn't a part in the Finger Lakes that isn't just remarkably unique and stunning in its visual that you can tell, hey, that's a certain part of the country. I've
mm.
been all over the country and I gotta say its beauty is so unique. I haven't seen it anywhere. There's so many beautiful places in our country and our world, but the Finger Lakes really has a unique personality, a unique spirit and soul about it.
Well, the thing too is with the way you are situated in New York State, like you're saying from the north to south, going that way. I was going
Mhm.
to ask about the different seasons. We all know that your winters get a little bit cold, and
Yeah,
spring is glorious, summer is amazing, but
yeah.
fall, do you have like extra leaf peeping, moments because of the south and the north thing, so that you start in the north, come south for that?
That is absolutely right. I mean, it is the size of many other counties in New York State, maybe a little bit on the larger side. But like I said, because it is such a north-south range in the breadth of the county, it definitely happens that way. There is enough north-south distance between the southern and the northern part of the county that you can notice and it creeps along. I would say that, at the southern part of the county is probably a week ahead, which is when the leaves start to change pretty rapidly, is noticeable. And we have a beautiful state park that's in the southern part of the county called Fillmore Glen State Park,
Uh-huh.
which is a park that's in this natural stone gorge. It's the rock strata is unbelievable. I remember going there as a kid and insisting to my parents, no, that didn't happen naturally. Somebody built that. That just looks too perfect. And they said, no, Noah, that's really a natural formation. And this gorge creates a microclimate zone within it where the leaves and the dynamic range between the color palette and the leaves is so noticeable within the gorge of Fillmore Glen. This is actually the parcel of property that the 13th president, Millard Fillmore, and his family lived on. So they have a cabin right where his cabin was, right at the mouth of this gorge. That's where our former president was raised. And it is just such a unique geographical feature, and I'm 100% sure their most popular time of year is that leaf peeping right when it kicks off moment in autumn.
I love it because when you also have lakes and gorges, you have that blue and the gold. There's
Oh, yes.
something, you know what I mean? That just is like, oh, that's magic. It's like after the snowstorm and everything's crystally and the blue sky comes out and the
Oh,
eye. Yeah, there, it's, look, I know winter gets wonky for people and I had to learn about winters in this country. And
okay.
that the West is different than like when you go north. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a whole other world. But
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. Do people go out and snowshoe and do like winter sport?
Oh, absolutely. Snowshoeing is very popular here. In fact, there's a spot in the northern part near Lake Ontario. In fact, it has many miles of shoreline on Lake Ontario, a park that is open year round. It's totally free entry. It's one of the most beautiful parks. It's called the Sterling Nature Center. And
Oh,
if you
yeah.
visit the Sterling Nature Center, they'll give you snowshoes in the winter and just say, "Oh, you going out on the trails? You want to be in your boots? Or would you rather be on these snowshoes?" And people love to snowshoe there. Also, we don't have a ski mountain here. I wish we did because of the nice lake effect snow we get, but we don't have any mountains. But we have so many options for cross country skiing here, which is just, I
Mm.
think it's kind of come back and it's kind of in vogue right now. But we have wonderful groomed trails and wild trails that people ski on all winter long. I've been doing it since I was a kid. It's just such a great workout. And when it finally clicks for you, some part on your first day, it really is pretty easy to learn. It's just the best way to traverse a beautiful, like you said, bluebird sky
Yeah.
landscapes in the winter. It's the best way to get around, in my opinion. Snowshoeing's great when the snow's really deep, but it's a workout. And, when you're cross country skiing, you get into that flow state and there's really a glide about it. And I like that. Yeah, cross country skiing is very popular here in the Finger Lakes.
Huh. This is cool. I mean, I haven't done either one of those. I think I might be good at snowshoeing because I was a clown once and I had to wear big clown shoes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so if you can wear clown shoes, you can do it. But
that's
to me,
exactly how it
it's just
feels.
there's a quietness in winter about being out that's different than in summer in a park.
Mhm.
Out and I've done some of that, in national parks and stuff, and it's just like, wow, everything changed, and the animal scenery, it's different. It's just
Mm.
different, and so to
There's a
see the 4
stillness,
seasons,
yeah,
yeah.
and the mornings, in the Finger Lakes, we get beautiful lake effect snow. The reason I say it's beautiful is because in a lot of places I've been, it snows pretty hard and then you're kind of snowed in and like locked in but the way the snow happens here is that the lakes are a few degrees warmer than the air at night, particularly. So a lot of times you wake up in the morning to just a fresh coat of beautiful, pristine snow over everything. And there's a stillness and quietness, and just it's a really unique time of year.
I'm glad we talked about it because I think sometimes we shy away and all we need to do is get a new jacket and some gloves.
Yeah,
Mittens don't
that's
do anything. I learned.
yeah,
Don't
I agree.
Yeah, just get new shoes. It's a good thing to get a new wardrobe.
Yeah.
See, tourism affects everything. I always say this, how the power of tourism affects our economy, nationally and globally. Even before we go somewhere, we're like, oh, let's put new tires on the car. Let's get a haircut. Let's do that. So even your own community benefits. So when we talk about all this, it's just, hey, go get a new jacket, get
Yeah.
new clothes, get new clothes. That's
Wool socks, 2 words,
wool.
wool socks. They're a miracle. I
Very
have a
cool.
pair of wool socks.
Mm-mm.
They're wonderful. Sometimes,
No.
and you can wear your cotton socks underneath them, but geez, I, have trudged through the most frozen environment to get to work in the morning, and my wool socks feel like I have a suit of armor on, and it's keeping my entire body.
I'm in because this is
Yeah.
the cold thing, and we've lived in the mountains in San Diego, and then when on this tour that we're on, ended up in Wisconsin in ice and snowstorms. Going, what do you mean? And then Oregon a couple years ago in avalanche warnings and an ice storm, and I'm going, what do you mean? And then you get out, no, no. So if I'd known, I would have. Okay, wool socks, everyone. We're all gonna
Socks, you
get.
got to have a pair. You got to have a
Okay.
pair.
Okay. So now lakes, let's get to the food, the sweet treats trail. We keep
Yes.
teasing everybody with this. It looks
Okay.
like you've got bakeries, and that is also good sustenance for cold weather. Wine
Yeah.
and baked delights, right?
Yeah. It's cafes, it's bakeries, but it's also what you might not think about, farms and
Mm.
cideries and orchards,
Oh,
and dairies
oh,
because there's so
good.
many
Cheese.
delicious things made at dairies. Yeah. It's really okay, so in New York, Cayuga County recently moved into the number 1 spot of agricultural producing
Really?
counties in the entire state. Yes, and a lot of that has to do with the wine, but a lot of it also has to do with our orchards. So, we have so many apple orchards here, and this is really we're coming into the time of the year where so many families go out together to these apple orchards, and many of these apple orchards are part of the Sweet Treat Trail. But it's also, of course, the obvious many wonderful bakeries. We have great bakeries here where you go and you get your
Oh,
confections and cookies and brownies, and there's also a lot of honey made here because there's so many crops and so much agriculture. So yeah, there's all kinds of honey shops where, they specialize in honey at their orchard. It's the Sweet Treat Trail really is the grand tour of food in the Finger Lakes. The sweet stuff and
well, you see, if you're hiking and snowshoeing and all of that, you get to have all these sweet treats, right?
yes, absolutely. Yep.
Reward.
It, it's a self-led trail where there's no start or no beginning. You can pick it up anywhere you want, but there's brochures all over the county that mark out all the spots. It's 22 participating locations right now.
Wow.
Actually, I think it's 23 as of today. And yeah, it's really about variety, whether it's ice cream or delicious pies or candies. Yeah,
Oh,
there's every kind of sweet thing can
mhm.
be found on this trail.
Okay. So, yeah, foodies are in. Okay. Now the
Yeah.
wine is there. The wine is good. So you have a lot of wineries. How many
Yes.
wineries do you think?
I think, actually, I don't know an actual count, but I think it's right over, I think right over or right under 20, right around the number.
That's nice. That's like a
And
perfect,
some of
yeah.
them are very, very small, but wonderful. Like there's
Mhm.
one called Fire Lane 6 Winery, which is definitely our smallest one. And the reason it's called that is because next to the lakes, often their streets are just called Fire Lane with a number.
Uh-huh.
And this is just a fire lane. It's kind of a residential area where there's a couple and they have about 3 acres of grapes. And I asked him this year, I said, how was your harvest last year? How did you do? And he said, oh, we harvested 9 tons. I was like, nine
Wow.
tons? Yes, 9 tons of grapes. So just a couple few acres. Yeah. And then we have enormous vineyards and wineries that grow. I could only imagine the tonnage there, but they grow so many different varieties.
Mm.
Actually, there's a variety of wine that's kind of become in vogue and known for the Finger Lakes. They feel that this might be one of the best places to grow Cabernet Franc. And people who
Oh,
are
okay.
really into that particular wine, it's actually one of my favorites, that have come here just to experience that. I was talking to Corey from IFWTWA,
Yeah.
and yeah, we had a conversation about the Cabernet Franc here, phenomena here in the Finger Lakes, and everybody's kind of catching on. They've grown it for a long time now, but they've really dialed it in, combined with kind of a worldwide, well, national at least recognition that that is a grape that grows wonderfully here.
Well, I think that's exciting. It's kinda like
Yeah.
Oregon for their Pinot Noir and,
Yes.
everybody's got their regions, and what they can grow
Yeah.
the best, So that
Mhm.
I think that's exciting. So you've got the seasons. You've got definitely have the 4 seasons, right? And then
Yeah.
you've got all this natural beauty. You've got the food. So
Yeah.
there's a side of and of course, I just feel like you've got to attract a lot of artistic people to your region, and I feel like you're gonna have I know the textile art we were talking about, but I feel like there's gotta be art and music and stuff going on.
There is. It's such an artistic, community. There's a thriving art scene in every little village and town in this
Oh,
area. You can find art galleries on almost every main street in the Finger Lakes area.
wow.
Beautiful canvas work, watercolors, traditional oils, but there's
Mm,
also lots of pottery being made. And as we talked about, lots of textile art being made and
mhm,
fiber art. And it's just, if a lot of this art isn't just, of the region, it's about the region. It
mhm,
depicts the vistas that you would see here or the culture that you would see here. It
mhm.
really is it's part of the communities.
And the music, I know just upstate New York from the number of I mean, we do a lot on music, a ton, and I don't know what it is about it's like, "Oh, upstate New York," and I'm like, "What is going on? Like, what's going on up there for
So
music?"
many stages. There's so many stages around the Finger Lakes region and right here in Cayuga County. And these stages, they're not just for Fridays, Saturdays. A lot of them have music every single night of the week.
I love that.
Yeah, different
Oh,
genres of music. I mean, every single kind of music you can imagine. Right here in Cayuga County, we have a kind of new, it's only been a few years, but they call it the Epic Concert Series right on the shores of Owasco Lake in Emerson Park, which
okay.
the numbers are just growing and growing and growing. It used to be a few hundred people there. Now there's over 1,000 people, and it's growing and growing. They're going to build a new amphitheater to accommodate and upgrade the size of the stage. It's just beautiful music by the water. Come, bring a lawn chair, bring a blanket. It's in the best
Oh,
time of the year. Yeah, it's really fun, and everybody participates. I mean, there's literally every single age group in that crowd.
I love it. You're making me want to move there. I haven't even visited, but I want to move there. And I've got a taste of it in Seneca Falls, and we were
Yeah.
only there for a few hours. And I was like,
Oh,
no,
okay.
there's more that needs to
Yeah.
happen here. We were
Oh, there's
driving,
so
well,
much.
we went, we saw the Erie Canal. We
Yeah.
were going cross country, and I was just like, I had no idea that New York was this beautiful. Because, you just have this other mindset of what New
Sure.
York is until you
Sure.
go. And once you
Yeah.
go there, you just don't, it's pastoral. It's just,
Yes.
beautiful. Some people say bucolic, but I hate that word. It just sounds like a medical term to me, but
Yeah. Sounds like a form of like
colic.
bacterial infection. Yeah.
Oh, nice. 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 But okay, so you have all the music and art. So you've got to have really good festivals too, like through the
We
year.
do. Every kind of festival, food festivals, arts and crafts festivals. I feel we have the absolute best Renaissance festival in the entire
Oh, no
world here.
way.
The
Party.
Sterling Renaissance Festival, which has
Mm,
been, I think they're celebrating their 40th anniversary very
wow.
soon. Yes, it's in a wonderful festival grounds where they keep it really medieval. One of the things about Renaissance fairs around the country is sometimes you're like, oh, you can see the havoc system coming out of the bakery or something. This is really like you are in a Renaissance village. And they do jousting, and they have knights in armor, and they
Yeah, the
have a king
music.
and a
Yeah.
queen. And that, yes, they have the music on the lutes and the flutes, and it's really is one of the it's been long known as one of the best Renaissance festivals. And like I said, the music. We've had several music festivals all year round from the winter into the summer. We have a bunch coming up now in the fall. And the middle of the winter, there's a great festival called the Fire and Ice Festival, where it's based around music, but it's also based around craft brewing. And we have a lot of great craft breweries here.
Wait a minute. No,
Yeah.
wait. Sweet treats, wine, and craft
Yes.
brewing.
Yeah, the Fire and
Wow.
Ice Festival is really fun. That's what that's based around. It's at a brewery called Prison City, which is right here in Auburn. Well, Auburn was actually, it has a history of this prison here. And a positive note, it was a prison where a lot of prison reform happened, where kind of the more brutal prisons of the past turned into the more humane prisons of the present. It employed a lot of people. So to get that like gritty name, they called themselves Prison City Brewing. But they have this festival, and there's ice sculptures, and a lot of these ice sculptures accommodate, like they make like a little campfire that burns through it and melts it eventually. And there's stages and music and craft breweries and craft cideries, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think we all have to go up there now. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just that's it. You just all have to go. All right. So for people who are now planning to go,
Okay.
what are the lodging options like?
The lodging options are at the full range. So right here in Auburn, we have your standard Holiday Inn and your Hilton Garden Inn, if you want your first day or two, something you're used to. But then we have wonderful bed and breakfast.
Love that.
Yes. And we also have some lodging, brand new lodging going in at one of our largest vineyards. Cayuga Estate Winery, which is a very
Nice.
award-winning winery, is building a whole new luxury hotel up there. So that'll be great. And then we also have a lot of, how popular Airbnb is and VRBO is now. We have some beautiful, what I would call boutique experiences where you can stay in all kinds of homes
Mm,
around the county. But not to pick favorites, but my favorite bed and breakfast is one called the Springside Inn. And that was a building that was built in the 1880s. And I think they only have 9 guest rooms, but they are
mm,
just beautifully decorated, and it's a real country inn feel. It's
mm.
got beautiful hardwood floors that are kind of creaky, and All the
Cool.
furniture is antique and the beds are just like big plush experience. And yeah, it's a great place. And that is centrally located in the county. If you wanted to see everything, I think that that's a great spot. A lot of our journalist guests that come visit, I like them to stay there, and they always thank me for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bed and breakfast, I love that because sometimes they get left off the maps across the
Yeah.
country. It's a true, and they're like a visitor bureau themselves. They're the wealth of knowledge. They have all the
Absolutely.
innkeepers have all these. Oh, you want to go there? Well, go meet my friend over here. So and so will
Yes.
help you there. It's very immersive, and you feel more like a local, and it's relaxing, and you don't have to make breakfast.
You don't have to make breakfast. And I think you're right. The owners of bed and
Mhm.
breakfast really are true ambassadors of their area.
Yeah,
They
well
know
put.
all the
Yeah.
people. They know where you want to go and what time you want to go there. They'll give you all the inside scoop
Mm.
and the inside backdoor
They have
knowledge about
treats.
everything. Yes. What's that?
They always have treats. There's
Oh, they
always
have
a
treats. Yes, they have delicious treats. Yes,
sometimes it's sherry, sometimes it's cookies, brownies, wine. I
absolutely.
don't care what it is. There's always a special treat
They
somewhere.
know how to accommodate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I want to go. I mean, I know people listening to this are going to be like, yeah, we need to go. So tourcayuga.com is the website, and it's linked in the episode notes. And of course, go check out IFWTWA.org for IFTWA. But lots to do: the arts, festivals, music, food, wines, treats, history. The history is incredible. And the other part of that is the Erie Canal, and that just celebrated its bicentennial, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
200
so
years.
so that is all tied in with America 250. That's such a huge thing happening. I feel like everyone needs to make a list of their 250 things to do thing everywhere across the country, but
Yeah, and
especially
we
New
fit
York.
right in, and we check so many boxes. You can check so many bucket list items right here in Cayuga County, which I like to call the doorstep to the Finger Lakes. If you're coming from the Northeast, you're going to be coming from the east going west, and you're going to go through Cayuga County, one of the most beautiful counties in the 12 counties of the Finger Lakes.
So there. All right. Thanks so much, Noah. It's been fun having you on the show.
Lisa, I had a blast. Thank you. I'd love to come back anytime if you'd have me.
Absolutely. Come on our Women's History show. I mean, this is going on the Women's History podcast now, too, and our
Absolutely,
way
but
back when.
as a
Yeah.
man, I would bring one of my coworkers. She could speak about women's history.
Cool. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!